In a small village, tucked away by the edge of a dense forest, there lived a woman named Zola. She was known throughout the village for her kindness, her beautiful smile, and the gentleness with which she cared for the sick and elderly. Yet, there was one thing that filled her heart with sorrow. Zola had no children. For many years, she had prayed to the gods, offering sacrifices of fruits, grains, and the finest goats. But the gods had remained silent. Her friends and family had tried to comfort her, telling her that it was just not her time yet. But with each passing year, Zola's heart grew heavier. The other women of the village had children, their homes bustling with laughter, but Zola's house remained quiet. One night, after another long day of tending to the fields, Zola sat alone in her hut. She gazed out of the window, watching the moonlight paint silver patterns on the earth, and she whispered a prayer to the goddess Eka, the spirit of fertility. "Great Eka," she said softly, "I have waited many years. Please, I beg of you, grant me a child." Suddenly, the air around her seemed to change. The wind stirred the leaves outside her hut, and the moonlight grew brighter. Zola gasped as a soft voice filled the air. Eka had come to her. "Zola," the voice said, rich and soothing, "I have heard your prayer. You will bear a child, but not just any child. The child will be born of the earth and the sky, a creature of great power. She will be a rainbow serpent, and her destiny is greater than you can imagine." Zola trembled, not from fear, but from the overwhelming sense of wonder. She felt a warmth fill her heart, and for the first time in many years, she felt hope stir within her. Eka's words were a promise, and Zola knew her life would never be the same again. Months passed, and the villagers continued with their daily lives, unaware of the miracle about to unfold. Zola's pregnancy, though strange, was an undeniable sign of the gods' favor. As her belly grew round, her beauty seemed to glow with a new light, and whispers of her divine pregnancy spread like wildfire through the village. On the night Zola went into labor, a strange and unnatural calm descended over the village. The air was still, and the sky shimmered with 1,000 stars. Zola's labor was long and painful, but when the child was finally born, the entire hut was filled with an otherworldly light. Zola held her child, Amara, in her arms, a baby with radiant, shimmering scales that reflected every color of the rainbow. The child was not a typical human baby, but a rainbow serpent in the form of a child, with eyes that glowed like the moon. Tears filled Zola's eyes as she gazed at her daughter. "My precious Amara," she whispered, "you are a gift from the gods." But not all were as thrilled as Zola. When the villagers learned of Amara's birth, they were filled with fear. They had never seen anything like her. The elders spoke of omens, dark omens, and said that such a creature would bring doom to their village. They demanded that Zola destroy her child, or else they would come to do so. Zola refused, with a heart full of both love and fear. She fled with Amara, seeking shelter in the only place she could think of, the evil forest. Zola ran with Amara in her arms, the night air thick with the scent of damp earth and the rustling of leaves. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow that seemed to guide Zola's path. She had heard stories of the evil forest, a place feared by all in the village. It was said that no one who entered the forest ever returned the same, if they returned at all. Spirits and malevolent creatures lurked there, creatures that thrived on darkness and decay. But Zola had no choice. The villagers had turned on her and her daughter, demanding that she destroy Amara. They feared the child for her radiant, multicolored scales were unlike anything they had ever seen. Even the elders, who had once been wise and revered, spoke of her as an omen of doom. Zola felt a fang of fear, but it was quickly replaced by a fierce determination. Amara was her child, her gift from the gods, and no one would take her away. As they reached the edge of the forest, Zola hesitated for a moment. The forest was dense, the trees gnarled and twisted like the fingers of ancient spirits. The wind whispered through the branches, carrying an eerie hum. "Stay close, Amara," Zola whispered, her voice trembling. Amara, cradled in her mother's arms, gazed up at her with large, curious eyes. The baby's tiny form seemed to pulse with an inner light, her scales reflecting the stars above. Even in the darkness, Amara glowed with a softness that calmed Zola's heart. The moment they stepped into the forest, the air changed, the temperature dropped, and the shadows seemed to grow longer, stretching as if alive. Strange cries echoed from deep within the streets, yet to Zola's surprise, the forest didn't feel threatening to Amara. She seemed to be at home here, as if the very earth recognized her divine nature. "Amara," Zola whispered, "I don't know what this place is, but it's where we must stay. This is where you will grow and where you will learn your power." Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Zola and Amara made their home deep within the forest, where the trees grew thick and the path was hidden from outsiders. Amara grew rapidly, her body changing in ways that Zola could hardly understand. Her serpent form was becoming more defined. Her once soft human features were now complemented by glowing scales that shimmered in hues of emerald, sapphire, and ruby. The magic of the forest seemed to nourish her, and her power began to emerge. By the time Amara reached her 5th year, she had already grown much taller than a typical child of her age. Zola watched with awe and concern as Amara demonstrated abilities that no child should possess. She could summon small rains with the flick of her hands, make flowers bloom where no seed had been planted. She spoke to the creatures of the forest. She listened to her every command. "Mother, the forest is alive," Amara said one day as they walked through the dense underbrush. Her voice was soft, but carried a deep wisdom for one so young. "The trees, the wind, the earth, they all speak to me. They tell me the stories of the world." Zola smiled, though a knot of fear tightened in her chest. She knew her daughter was special, but she also feared what this power could mean. How could Amara live among the people when she was not fully human? But Zola kept her fears hidden. She had promised the gods that she would raise Amara with love, and she would keep that promise no matter the cost. Years passed, and the village that had once turned its back on Zola and Amara faced its own crisis. A terrible drought had descended upon the land. The rivers dried up, and the crops withered under the scorching sun. The villagers prayed desperately to the gods, offering sacrifices and performing rituals, but nothing seemed to help. The land was dying, and the people were starving. In their desperation, the village elders remembered the old prophecy passed down through generations. When the earth is barren and the skies dry, a child of the serpent will bring salvation. The elders gathered, whispering in the shadows, wondering if the prophecy had come true. Some of them remembered Amara, the strange child who had been cast out, the child with rainbow scales. Could she be the one to save them? But there were those among them who still feared her. They had seen the power of the serpent child and believed that it was a curse, not a blessing. They feared what she could do and what might happen if she returned to the village. Still, there were others, those who had known Zola's kindness, who sent a messenger to the evil forest, hoping to find Amara and bring her back. One day, as Amara and Zola sat by a sparkling stream in the heart of the forest, a strange feeling washed over Amara. It was as though the earth itself was calling to her, urging her to return. Her heart raced with anticipation, for she knew that her time had come. "Mother," Amara said, her voice trembling with both fear and excitement, "I must go. The land needs me." Zola looked at her daughter, knowing that this day would come. Though her heart ached at the thought of losing her, she knew that Amara's destiny was greater than anything Zola could offer her in the forest. "I will always be with you," Zola whispered, her voice filled with both pride and sorrow. "Go, my daughter, save the people." Amara rose to her full height, her rainbow scales shimmering as she walked toward the edge of the forest. The earth trembled beneath her, and the sky above seemed to shift as if it recognized the power within her. As Amara made her way toward the villagers who had once rejected her began to feel the stirrings of hope. The air grew cooler, and dark clouds parted to reveal the sun. The winds shifted, bringing a scent of rain. Amara arrived at the village edge, where the elders awaited her. The leaders of the village stood with bowed heads, unsure of how to greet the child they had once feared. "Amara," the elder leader said, his voice quivering, "You have come." Amara nodded, her gaze fierce but kind. "The land is dying." "I will restore it, but only if the people understand that they must live in harmony with the earth. The balance must be honored." With a great effort, Amara extended her rainbow hands, wrapping them around the dry earth. As she did, the ground began to tremble, and the sky darkened with thunder. Her body shifted between human and divine, a brilliant fusion of both worlds. The villagers watched in awe as the clouds burst open and rain began to fall, soaking the parched soil. The rivers, once dry, began to flow once more, and the crops that had withered sprang back to life. The village was saved, but Amara's power was not just in her ability to control the weather, it was in the lesson she taught the villagers that life must be nurtured, the earth must be respected, and balance must be maintained. With her guidance, the village thrived once more. From that day on, Amara became the guardian of the village. Her rainbow scales became a symbol of hope and prosperity. The people no longer feared her, but instead revered her as a demi-goddess who had saved their lives. She and Zola were finally accepted, and their bond as mother and daughter was celebrated. Amara's legacy lived on, not just in the village, but in the hearts of all who understood that the earth's balance must always be respected. The story of the Rainbow Serpent was passed down through generations, a reminder that even the most unlikely of heroes can bring salvation. And so, Amara, the Rainbow Serpent, became a legend, not just of power, but of love, forgiveness, and the eternal bond between a mother and her child.